All right, so I'm going to talk about sterilization. This is one of the important surgical things that you will have to know about in the theater because a lot of instruments are going to go through this process. And what exactly is it? So let's get to it. So now, sterilization is the process by which you remove the microbial organisms from a surface or instrument, let's say. Now, um, let's say for an example, now if you say removal of organisms, it can be bacteria, virus, fungal, but that removal alone is not enough. If you say that removal alone, then it is antisepsis, right? It's like an antiseptic, cleaning, antiseptic, right? So now sterilization refers to not only that, the removal of organisms, but also the spores. This includes spores, which are really resistant to harsh environmental conditions. And therefore, you need specific conditions, specific chemicals, or specific preparations to make those surfaces sterile. Because this, if the given conditions are correct, then these spores could release initially. They have the inactive organism and they can become active under certain conditions, so you don't want that happening. So that's why before surgical procedure, before the instrument is in contact with certain exposed environments of the human body or exposed mediums, so that's why you need a sterilized equipment, or the area or whatever you're using has to be sterile. So, what are the ways, for an example, we can do sterilization? There are different examples. One is a common one is autoclaving, the use of heat ovens, dry heating, right? Ethylene oxide gases like ethylene oxide, radiation, hydrogen peroxide, filter systems, filters, right? So these are all different ways in which sterilization could be done to surgical instruments. So now come to the commonest one, autoclaving, right? So autoclaving. So that's not your normal. Generally, it's not like you're boiling at water temperature 100 degrees and all that, right? So here, what you have is So this is autoclaving is a procedure used for instruments, aprons, aprons, yeah. Um, so and surgical instruments, orthopedic instruments, so they can be used autoclaved. So what happens here is the temperature is usually 121 Celsius. So you heat it up to 121 Celsius for a time of about 15 to 20 minutes at a pressure. There's a pressure, 15 pounds per square inch, 15 psi they say, the pounds per square inch. So this is one of the conditions needed, so that you are able to remove the spores and all of that. It's either this, or you can go for a little bit of higher temperature, meaning 134 for about 5 minutes. Right? So these are two ways you can autoclave. Right? The low temperature will need much more different conditions. A high temperature is pretty straightforward. Okay, so that is one. Next one is the dry heating in the oven. So this one where you're going to prefer this when there's glass instruments, glassware, glass syringes. So you can put in the oven for an oven for about 160, if it's for 160 degrees for 2 hours, 170 for 1 hour. So here itself you can identify, if you're giving high temperatures, you can get the job done much quicker. But again, you have to think about the resources. More energy is going to be needed. But high temperature means much better practicality, right? So then, so those two, that one. Then the other one would be, yeah, I talked about ethylene oxide gas. So you can use ethylene oxide, and the other one, chemical hydrogen peroxide. Not specifically, yeah, you can say hydrogen peroxide. Yeah. So now ethylene oxide, hydrogen peroxide, they are used for like these scopes, endoscopes, arthroscopes. So clean those kind of ones, you can use that. Next, radiation. So radiation means, as you can know, it's basically damage, right? So you can what do you say, syringes, right? Disposable syringes. So those kind of things you can use the radiation. Finally, filters. I talked about filters, so filters means the IV fluids, those things you can use filters to sterilize. And you usually use something like a zero point 0.2 micrometers filter. So this is basically the general concept, right? When it comes to sterilization, that one has to keep in mind when they're going to the theater, and the different procedures, different instruments. I just highlighted them, and I believe these are important, very high yield, concepts, right? Because it might seem, but these are the ones that are usually tested.